1 second here. All right, there we go. What's going on, everybody? A little housekeeping operation before the show.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's damn right. It's a marathon. Welcome to the Stokastic.com. Well, marathon matchup show, baby. Week 8. We are effectively halfway through the season already. It's flying. NBA in full swing. Hockey's back. World Series about to be upon us. Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series. How about that? Woo!
Yeah, we can talk about Philly sports for a minute, right? Like, we got the time here.
Listen, man,
it's an amazing time, dude. It's such
exciting.
A cool time.
It's exciting. It really is, because you have to cherish. I know you've told me, and I'll never understand this mindset of yours, but I know many people are the same way, especially in the DFS and the betting space. You don't have loyalty to any team. You don't really root for teams. I think you're missing something there, because the camaraderie that comes along with it. Some may even say tribalism, Matt, is unlike anything else. It brings you closer to God. No, but it brings you closer to your friends and your family and your loved one. It's just exciting when they play well, and you have to cherish these moments, because, as we know, they won't last forever.
Okay, well, first of all, anyone who says I'm not romantic about sports does not know me at all. I'm a very sentimental person when it comes to sports. Absolutely. And I'm going to poke fun at my wonderful father for a minute, because he has a catchphrase that we all like to make. We all like to rib him for. He says, I don't have emotions. I don't have emotions. And we all know behind his back that he has the most emotions out of all of us. He just doesn't want to confront them. And that's really how I'm feeling about team loyalty. From the Washington area, I had my heart ripped out, my soul ripped out, and then the soullessness of certain franchises is what did me in.
I get that.
The ambivalence, the anger, the outright rage towards the fandom at certain points, going against common sense other times. It's not a great place to be. At least it's gotten better since I left. That's the end of my diatribe. What I would say about Philly sports is, even if you're not a huge, you're in the DFS mind space like I am, where you're just trying to get the right answer most of the time, and you're in the Philly area, try to get to a game, try to soak it in, because your city isn't this good at sports. Any city isn't this good at sports very often.
Absolutely. If you have $3,000, get out to a Phillies game, So what happened is, you really did try. You gave it your best shot, and now you're just apathetic.
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, hopefully life is long. These things can come in waves. Maybe I'll show up to one of these matchup shows just decked out with some sort of gear back here, and you're like, I'm on it. I'm on the bandwagon.
It's fun. And speaking of my wife will tell you that I don't have emotions unless it comes to sports. So there's that. Anyway, it's an exciting time. They just got to fire Doc Rivers. I've been saying this for a while. We haven't had a good coach in a while. Doc Rivers stinks. Not like he actually stinks. He's not good. Not a good coach.
Really? You think it's like time the NBA world has passed him by since?
I think it's been time.
Coach?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good coach. And this isn't just because they're losing. He's not good. I could get into it, but it's a football show. But no, I think most people would agree. He's not there. They need, bring in some fresh blood, Brought in Sirianni. Everyone's like, oh, really? You bring in Rod Thompson as an interim coach, and he just inked a new deal, got him to the World Series. They were terrible. When Girardi was in there, right? So
sometimes
even John Tortorella
together.
For the Flyers, you got Torts.
Yeah.
Anyway. We're happy to have you guys with us. I love this show has the best group of people watching, because we're all ride or die here, Matt. We know it's a marathon. We know how long it goes. You already have multiple comments saying atone for your sins and hit that thumbs up button. You're damn right. Take a single second of your day. If you like this content, atone for your sins. Have you not done so yet? And hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys getting us all the way up to, what are we at, like 82,000 already or something? We're cruising. And it's all thanks to you guys. If you're listening in podcast form, hit the rating, the review, or leave a rating review. Helps us greatly. subscribe to the podcast, and tell your friends. Tell your friends about the Stokastic Strategy shows. It takes us a long way. How you feeling, though, today, man?
I'm feeling great. Honestly, the only problem with this week, it's been a great week weather-wise here on the East Coast, to be honest. It's a good football slate. The injuries last week were such a bummer. Like, if you have season-long fantasy leagues or best ball leagues, like, a lot of them took a hit last week. That's just the only thing that's tough about this week. But at the same time, we were kind of talking a little going into this one. We have clear shootout potential in multiple places. We have some one-offs that make a whole lot of sense. And then, you know, we've got some catchphrases I'll get into, but there's a whole lot of people in the you can play them range that at the end of the week, if you said, oh, they were the ones you needed in your lineup, wouldn't be that surprised.
I'm with you. Benny said Laffy's wearing cashmere. No, Laffy's wearing a like $15 H&M crew neck sweatshirt. Now we don't go big here. I'm not out there spending $300 on a t-shirt like Adam is or Jordan Klein. It's
don't
not
you want to
man.
pop on screen?
What's that?
Don't you need to pop on screen, and that, you know, that equates 1-to-1 with the money you spend, right?
Hey, I'll tell you straight up. I've looked at these t-shirts and if you told me they're $200 t-shirts, I'd call you fucking crazy.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like that is
makes
one
no
fabric in a
difference to
square.
I can look pretty okay in some clothes that hey, listen, no shame. Don't get me wrong, but it's not my style, man. It's not my style. Wearing some nice some gray sweat shorts right now with a sweatshirt, and I feel great.
I got black athletic sweatpants. We got the work from home uniform down pat.
I say this is a waist up profession.
Yeah.
You know, it absolutely is. But hey, and Tyler, Crocs are a massive violation. I hate Crocs. No. Oh, they're the worst. My brother-in-laws both wear them frequently. They just got them for their knees. My daughter, nope.
Hard no.
Massive violation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I wear plenty of stuff that people would argue with, but the Crocs, can't do it.
We are happy to do ad reads for Crocs. If you're out there listening, just give us a call. But yeah.
I don't think I would.
You wouldn't do it? Really?
No, because when I do reads, I need to have some conviction. You would be able to tell that I
haven't found it yet. Certainly stylistically, maybe we don't have to talk football today. Certainly stylistically, I haven't found any utility for Crocs yet. But maybe if, you know, I was given the opportunity in ample time, I might find some.
People love them. Credit the person who made them and convinced people that they're cool. That's the real winner.
It's true. Like, just how did we get here, and now it's just acceptable, like a thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
When they first came out, it was, oh my God, and now people are rocking the Crocs.
Sometimes the socks.
Let's talk some football, man. We got 11 games to get into. Again, thanks, guys, for being with us today. Lots to talk about. We'll kick it off with Miami at Detroit. Highest total on the site. Back in Detroit, where the Lions have had some serious success offensively. I think they can rediscover some of that offensive success this week because DeAndre Swift got a full practice in for the first time in many weeks. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dan Campbell already said that he's going to play. So this could, and of course, DJ Shark on the IR, you get some injuries, but the two main weapons should be back. We'll start with the Miami Dolphins, though, on the road side. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, and I'll set it up with this, Matt, and turn it over to you. Neil and I talked about this yesterday. We even tried to build some lineups on the ownership show by hand that some of these stacks are phenomenal, but just know going into it, if you're full stacking a game like this with Tua, Waddle, Hill, and then St. Brown on the other side, you're going to be dumpster diving at more than just one position.
And they do this on purpose, right, Laffy? Because they know the highest total games are going to attract the players who want to stack those teams. And ultimately, we know who's most likely to perform on Miami. And as you said, Detroit looks like they're going to be consolidating their offense.
Did I call them the Tigers?
I missed that. You did?
Okay. Tyler did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. My fault. Go ahead.
There's some sort of animal, some sort of beastly creature. But ultimately, I think this shootout potential is worth investing in and worth dumpster diving if you're playing multiple lineups for sure. the way that Tyreek Hill is being utilized, especially over the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's absolutely elite and expected. Fantasy points per game among wide receivers on the slate, he's third. Again, going back the last 6 weeks. Jalen Waddle is 10th, by the way. So it's not like you're getting a huge downgrade in opportunity value when you're going from 8,500 in DraftKings salary down to 67 for Waddle. Tua is definitely in the you can play him range, even up there at quarterback 4, 6,200. I'm really interested to see this running back position too in Miami. If we've got shootout potential here, and so many people are interested in Hill and Waddle, and ultimately too in Gesicki, who keeps getting used more and more in the passing game. What about Raheem Mostert, who I think has taken a clear lead in this backfield compared to Chase Edmonds? Don't even get Stokastic fantasy football analyst Nick Lepre started on this. Like some new radio personality comes out of his soul and starts just going off about how Chase Edmonds is the worst football player on earth. I'm not ready to go there, but we have him outside the top 35 in our rankings for running backs.
I love Nick, but I've been on this far before Nick, before Chase Edmonds ever came to Miami. Okay. I'm not a Chase Edmonds fan. Wasn't in Arizona before the season started. And you don't need to ask me how I feel about Raheem Mostert. I love that guy. You're right, though. He's the clear lead back right now in Miami. I don't think it's up. I don't think it's, you could dispute that. It's not up for debate unless something changes dramatically. He is the clear lead back in Miami right now, and I will continue to play him. I also think it's great leverage in non-Miami Detroit game stacks.
That's interesting. So I actually think I would rather do like a skinny game stack, like a Raheem Mostert, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then use a quarterback stack from another game, something like that. I do think they are interesting one-offs, though. In terms of expected fantasy points and projection, it's ahead of salary-based expectations. So it's all systems go for Raheem Mostert. It's a situation, especially with so much leverage in large field tournaments, I'm willing to be wrong.
You know, the thing is, and I'm with you on the skinny stack, but if you build some lineups, one thing you'll realize is, like, say you wanted to stack Las Vegas, New Orleans, or you wanted to stack, because you're going to have Adams in there, you're going to have probably Alvin Kamara, but actually, let's say you want to stack Minnesota, Arizona, real tough game to stack. You're not going to be able to get St. Brown in there with it unless you're doing like non-Jefferson lineups and you're going Thielen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, because you're probably coming back with Hopkins, who I think is one of the best plays on the slate. Mostert fits real nice at, what's he, 5,900, I think. Is he 5,900?
Yep, 5,900. Yeah. So 18 points is 3x value, Laffy. That, I get it. He's going to be 15% owned. I'm going to be over the field on that.
Me too.
If that stays there, I'm going to be over.
Me too. I love this game. Look, Waddle, Hill, Mostert, Tua's price tag is very odd. You know, he hasn't been great, but if Tua was 70-some hundred, it'd be very difficult to play him this week with that stack, fully stacking the game. I mean, Kyler's 7,500. Try building some Kyler, Jefferson, Hopkins lineups. It's doable, but it's not fun. I think Commanders defense is going to be damn popular as a result because of how cheap they are facing Sam Ehlinger. We had a question. How do you feel about stacking this game? I'm paraphrasing because I don't feel like scrolling up in the chat, but I did read it. How do you feel about stacking this game but going Ehlinger over Tua? Ben said he's going to have some stacks with running naked Sam Ehlinger and then have some game stacks underneath it.
This is why I love working where I work, because there are people who are willing to do things in DFS where they haven't seen it yet at all. What in the world shows us that that can happen, except for the fact that football is a wild sport week to week? If they're saying you can do it, you can. I can't find any metrics to tell you other than the fact that he ran in college. That matters. You know, if he's going to run a lot, he's going to scramble a lot. We can look at it a little higher, but man, that's so tough to predict. It could go so wrong for Sam Ehlinger this week.
It could. 4,000 is the cheapest we'll get all year for a starting QB, though. So he has legs. He can move. We'll get into that game.
Yep.
look, I think you're going to have to consider when it comes to this game, and I don't mind bouncing around on both sides of this. I think it actually makes more sense this way because most people are going to be game stacking it. I think if you are doing so, you're going to have to consider players like Trent Sherfield. You're going to have to consider Mike Gesicki because there are going to be spots where you can't comfortably fit Hill and Waddle and St. Brown into what you're trying to do and still play, a decent roster around them. So I will have some of these tertiary options for the Miami Dolphins for sure.
No one sticks out per se, but really what it is just positive correlation, attaching yourself to the most Vegas implied points. Absolutely no problem with that when the salary dictates that we have to go there. Again, you're just trying to beat a bunch of people by being unique. The minute you go to Trent Sherfield, 97.5% of your lineups, you're already different then. Mike Gesicki's at 7% ownership. That's fine. His expected fantasy points keeps rising. The opportunity he's getting, especially with Tua on the field, I think could actually be sneaky good.
I love Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. We had somebody come in the chat yesterday saying, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, horrible advice, horrible recommendations. Xavier Howard hasn't given up a touchdown all year. And I'm like, I remember a couple, I think, especially one against T. Higgins on Thursday Night Football. So I went and looked. Only one cornerback has allowed more touchdowns in coverage than Xavier Howard this year. Matt and I were talking about corners and how, like, if your elite corner isn't playing well or he's injured or he's out, how much that can change the complexion of a secondary. Well, Xavier Howard is not having the season that many expected of him. Byron Jones hasn't played yet this year. You're talking about a Miami Dolphins secondary that has been tuned up when they faced even remotely decent offenses.
And that pretty much explains why even at wide receiver 10, 6,900, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown clearly ahead of salary-based expectations in our projections. You need about 20 points to feel really good about him in a tournament at that salary. I don't think he's nearly owned enough. I realize why he's not because of the way that people are utilizing their salary this week. But man, this play looks really, really good on paper. It just says a lot about our projections to go right back to the well, even after he's missed time and then immediately got knocked out. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a star.
I love him. Joshua said, to be fair, Howard was hurt for quite a bit. Yeah, for sure. But I think you still have to look at St. Brown for sure. Swift is the one spot that I'm very much, I'm not confident getting to DeAndre Swift at this price, especially given that Jamal Williams is a guy that Dan Campbell already likes. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Swift was eased back into action here.
100%. I'm with you with the most likely outcome, but with Swift, a player like that getting full practices in, hopefully what they were just conservative with him. He could have played in a couple weeks leading up to this, and he's full go right away. Under 5% expected ownership right now in one of the premier spots in the entire slate. I get it. The goal line opportunities may not be there from a team standpoint and the fact that Jamal Williams is there. But honestly, I really like Swift in a pay up to be contrarian kind of way.
Anybody else you want to get to for Detroit? I mean, you have Reynolds who should play. You have TJ Hawkinson. They do a few guys. None of them are particularly dirt cheap, but there are some guys.
The same thing we said about the tertiary options on Miami. You're attaching yourself to this really good game environment with that play, and you're all talking about 4% or less in terms of expected ownership. So absolutely fine with it. Hawkinson, Matt Kajeski says, every single time someone else talented is on the field for Detroit, Hawkinson disappears.
It's true.
He has pop weeks in his potential. You need about 15 points to feel good in tournaments. I'll probably be right at the field at 6 to 8%.
I get it. Las Vegas, New Orleans, another fun game. Devontae Adams was out of practice with an illness, so we'll pay attention to that. I'm assuming he's good to go. And then guys like Renfro were limited, Mac Hollins limited. Darren Waller was back at a limited practice, so that could get interesting. Mm-hmm. I really do. Look, I've been saying this for a few weeks now that the Las Vegas team is far better than their initial record would have indicated. They could have beat Kansas City. They should have beat Arizona. Now, bear with me because I know they didn't, but a lot of variance in football. They went for the 2 against Kansas City, then Renfro ran into Adams, fell over on what probably would have been a touchdown. Forget about all that. What's that?
I buy it. I get the narrative you're weaving.
Look, they put up 32 on the Denver Broncos, who have the best defense in the league. So here's what I'm saying, though. Forget about wins and losses. Know this. Las Vegas's defense is not that strong. Their offense is good, okay? They have the 3rd highest scoring offense in the league. Over the last 3 weeks, they've scored 32, 29, and 38. They're averaging 33 points per game over their last 3. They can put points on the board, and it looks like New Orleans is going to be without Lattimore again. They just threw Bradley Roby on the IR. That's not good at all. Just go down the list in the secondary here. You got some issues. I don't know if Debo is going to be active either. He's questionable. This New Orleans defense, particularly their secondary, has dramatically underperformed expectations. But the offense, we know Dalton is going to start this week. Michael Thomas still not practicing, probably going to be out. Landry probably going to be out. So you're talking guys like Kamara. You're talking Juwan Johnson, I think is viable here. 2 touchdowns last game. Talking Chris Olave. And then you want to get crazy. Callaway's cheap, but Hunter Renfro's cheap. Devontae Adams is a stud. There's a lot to like for me in this game.
Absolutely. Playmakers. And because of the Saints' injuries, kind of consolidated offenses on kind of both sides here. Here's my one concern. When we talk about the shootout potential, the range of outcomes, obviously the ceiling is there. I do have some floor concern in terms of number of total plays in this game because of the way that the rush offense versus rush defense matchup works out on both sides. The Saints run offense, 3rd in Football Outsiders DVOA, 6th in yards per carry against the run defense of the Raiders, who are 20th in Football Outsiders rush DVOA. The Saints run defense, a staple of their defense for years and years, are 21st in yards per carry, 19th in Football Outsiders rush DVOA. And the Raiders, I can't even believe I'm saying this, 1st in Football Outsiders rush DVOA. So if both teams do what they like to do and do well, running keeps the clock running, and that means the number of plays can go down. That doesn't mean wide receivers can't take deep passes to the house. The shootout potential can still happen, but we've seen correlations between number of plays and total points and obviously fantasy scoring. So that's my one little tidbit about the downside. Still, we're listening to Vegas at a 49.5 over under. You talked about the playmakers, the ceiling potential of Olave, and the fact that Andy Dalton is now putting up Jameis Winston type scores with multiple touchdowns, and he doesn't even care about throwing the 3 picks.
Look, you could absolutely be right. If that is the case, then you have to like Alvin Kamara quite a bit because he's going to get it done in both phases of the offense.
Yep, absolutely.
Like he's immune to the game script.
Exactly the next point I was going to make, right? Alvin Kamara isn't in your lineup because the potential for 6 touchdowns is there. We literally know that every single game. The matchup is the cherry on top with Alvin Kamara. You don't play both Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara, but I will say, surprisingly enough, number 1 in our projections at the running back position, Josh Jacobs.
There it is. Some trade rumors swirling that Kamara could be going to the Eagles as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Do they need him? I don't even know if they need him.
I don't want him to do it. I don't want him to do it.
All right, I'm going to say it. I was worried. I want the footage if it actually happens. The Eagles could run the table in the regular season.
Don't, Matt. Turn the stream off, Tyler.
The quarterbacks they're playing.
I know, Matt.
Outside of Rodgers, Prescott, and Tannehill, who can just go off and kind of beat you on their own. That defense should beat every other quarterback they face.
You're right.
Those are the 3 quarterbacks that can beat them, regardless of whatever they put on the field.
I know. They're in a good spot for sure. They are. No team though. I don't want them to go 17-0. I want them to lose a couple along the way.
You want them to learn a few lessons.
it's just to win every game of the regular season, 17-game season, and then go into the playoffs and win them all. I mean, come on.
It'd be cool though.
It'd be insane. Oh my God. That Philly would burn down.
It would burn down. No, they got to finish the job because people don't look too kindly on that Patriots team that didn't finish.
I know. I hear you. Exactly. That's what everyone remembers. Yeah. But no, I love Kamara in this game regardless. I love him no matter what. I don't care what. I had mentioned this yesterday. If Dalton's starting, and we got the news yesterday, Dalton's starting. We got it yesterday afternoon. Dalton loves throwing the Kamara. It sounds so weird. I get excited talking about Alvin Kamara in an offense where the quarterback wants to throw to him again, and where the quarterback can be crazy as well, throwing interceptions, whatever, has to get wild, gets the ball to Alvin Kamara. Because from everything I've seen over the last several weeks since he returned from that rib injury, Alvin Kamara is back.
This is awesome. Expected fantasy points, we're back up to number 1 of running backs on the slate. That seems pretty good to me. And again, I said it earlier, but this is about offensive and production consolidation in the New Orleans offense. With Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry on the field, you have to worry about some pretty serious threats on high leverage situations, third down, goal line. Now it's Taysom Hill or Juwan Johnson at the goal line. Chris Olave is Mr. Air Yards, and of course he could catch a touchdown as well. But Alvin Kamara just works in so many ways. If they do end up playing the game script I talk about, which is run, and run some more, he does great. If they get caught and Las Vegas comes out firing, you play a few players on that side and then find a way to get 7,100 Alvin Kamara, just running back 7 on the slate in there. I think he's a fantastic option.
All right. Someone asked about Raheed Shaheed. I got it right. Not a name that I remember all that well. And yesterday was evidence of that. He only played, I know he had that huge play last week to open the game. That basically crushed me out of the gate. So that was fun. But he only played 10 snaps. I mean, you're talking about a situation where, and that was a showdown slate where really all of the stars would need to align. He ran 8 routes. So I quite frankly, I know it's not exciting. I would still 100% rather go to Marquez Callaway. Like, he ran 41 routes last week. I know he hasn't been good. Give me the guy that's out there the entire game and is running a route on pretty much every drop back.
That's good fundamentals there. You're going to take route participation rate. You're going to take target share. Look at that before you look at the splash plays. However, my antenna are raised here because this is an undrafted free agent where the Saints have a ton of beat writers, a ton of local media that are really plugged in there. So they have a lot of good information if you go looking for it. And ultimately, this looks like a very raw talent that they started to get into the offense very, very slowly. But when they do work him into the plays, he is the target on those plays. And when you turn 2 of them into splash play touchdowns, that's what ultimately gives you more opportunities in front of the coaching staff and maybe more playing time. It's still a large field tournament option, but it's usually a good thing when your first 2 touches end up being touchdowns in the NFL.
Oh, I get it. But he still only had 1 target last game, and the other touchdown was on a 44-yard rushing attempt. So
no arguments for sure.
Like, I get what you're saying. Hey, look, this guy's been effective. Look what he's doing on limited work. Maybe we get him more work. If that's your angle, I get it. I'm just saying, so far, he scored a touchdown on the first drive of the game, 53-yard touchdown, and still only played 10 snaps. So that was where I'm like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you want to throw some Millie shots in there. That's fine. Smaller tournaments, I don't want to go there. But it might be a way to stack them a little bit easier. I would still probably prefer Callaway though, because he's the same price.
And he's only 1% owned, or that's the expectation going in. 10 times or 1/10 the expected ownership compared to Chris Olave.
Crazy. Anything? I think we covered this nicely, just as far as how we want to attack it. Do you want to quickly, so we don't spend all the time on this game, hit on the Raiders and how you're approaching them?
Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill have spike potential in this game environment for sure. Josh Jacobs, we mentioned, the number 1 running back in our projections, so it's 7,500. His projections are way ahead of salary-based expectations. Devontae Adams, You mentioned it right off the top here. At 8,600, it's tough to get there, and there are some better values at the top tier, but you told me he went off. I wouldn't be surprised against this New Orleans defense that is struggling. It's really the secondary options beyond that. You know, what do we get out of Renfrow? Does Waller play a normal amount? Does Matt Collins play a role here? Obviously, his snap share is really high, but his expected fantasy points, just 10 DraftKings expected fantasy points, nothing to write home about. Honestly, I will take shots at these wide receivers as a one-off because of how much I like Kamara on the other side. That's just the way I'll play it. And if you said you wanted to stack up Adams and Carr, no problems with that at all.
Adams is going to have a huge game very soon.
Sure, that spike week is coming.
Feel it in my bones. But hey, Renfrow, I do like Renfrow just because he's cheap. He's 4,900 in a game with the second highest total of the week. I do like Renfrow. And if Waller's out, you know, who knows? Matt Collins is pretty cheap as well. We've seen those games happen. You just got to be just find variation, find configurations in this game that makes sense. And especially if Thomas and Jarvis are out, it's going to open things up. And by the way, guys, if you're just joining and you're like, oh, they're only do 2 games, we put all of the highest total games first. We intentionally spend the most time on these. This week, I think, is unique to any other week that we've seen on the year because there are 3 games that stand out ahead of anything else. You're talking 51.5 total, 49.5, 49, and then the next total drops by 5 points. So we want to make sure we're getting you guys the important information when it comes to these games, such as Arizona and Minnesota. I know Ben loves them. I think I converted Neil yesterday. Hopefully I'm not wrong about this on Sunday. Man, I love Hopkins. 92% of snaps in his first game back, 14 targets. Longest reception was only 18 yards, but I'm not particularly worried about that. 7,600. You guys like Christian Kirk being gone, that, you know, even not having him, but then you lose Marquise Brown, and Marquise Brown's good, no doubt. But DeAndre Hopkins, first of all, he's not toast. We saw that. DeAndre Hopkins is the type of guy that you can really lean on if you're a quarterback. And I don't think Kyler Murray has had that yet up until this last week.
I feel like the Showdown Bros, and I'm including Neil Orfield in that, are just mad that a star player went off in prime time. So the public is definitely going to see it, remember it, and play them a lot on the main slate. So sometimes I feel like they just like see how many people are going to play them, meaning how many people do they have to beat with DeAndre Hopkins going off, and they get nervous because DeAndre Hopkins could absolutely be a slate destroyer based on the usage we saw last week. Expected fantasy points, again, that's air yards, targets, where they happened on the field, when they happen, rolled up into an easy scale. DeAndre Hopkins, number 1 in that expected fantasy points per game metric.
Wow.
Small sample, but you're talking about Cooper Kupp level usage. 14 targets, 131 air yards. That's 58.5% of his team's air yards.
Guess how many times Murray threw in that game?
I guess what? 28?
Yeah, 29, 50% target share.
There you go. This guy is still DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what else you have to really, can you afford him or can you not? That's really the only question here. He's still an excellent player. 7,400 is not too much. We have him right at salary-based expectations in a median projection sense.
Well, that's kind of the fascinating thing about Hopkins though, right? Because, and all good points. I didn't know he was number 1 in expected fantasy points last week.
Just a 1-game sample, right?
But it's still, it was still his first game back of the season, right? Which is why it was so silly of Kingsbury. Like, oh, we'll try and work him into what are you talking about? He knows the offense. He's not hurt. He's suspended. Silly. I keep railing on that because it's so stupid. But this is the thing though. All right. Las Vegas, New Orleans. You want to pay for a top receiver in Las Vegas, it's 8,600. You want one from Minnesota, you're talking 9,100. I'm talking about the guy, right? For each of those things. You want Tyreek Hill, you're getting to 8,500. He's the highest highest projected owned player on the slate right now. You want to get the Hopkins, 74 doesn't look all that bad.
No. And then you want to talk about expected fantasy points per dollar or something like that in terms of like opportunity value per salary. DeAndre Hopkins is going to look like one of the very best values on the entire slate. And then you talk about the game environment he's in. This Minnesota team, just impressive. Honestly, just figuring out ways to win. Arizona can push the tempo. We know that, but so can they. Kirk Cousins getting it done. His salary is really high, but his projection is right there at that salary-based expectation. Dalvin Cook is the one that we're not really in on. But really, I think this Arizona team is one that even if they're not good overall and their defense isn't, their offense is one to keep pace, which makes the other offense continually exploit the defense. This has great shootout potential and less of that running game worry than that New Orleans game I was just talking about.
No doubt. Larry made a good point. He said moving Hopkins into the slot like 50% of the time last week helps him a lot too. No doubt. Yeah, 42% of his routes were out of the slot, which is, some people might see that as a bad thing, but it's not. Get him targets, PPR, receptions are worth a lot. He had almost 2 touchdowns worth of receptions last week. So I'll take that. Line him up outside, get him a couple deep shots. I'm all
What'd
about it.
What'd you say was 42% of his targets came on slot snaps?
No, he lined up in the slots 42% of the time.
Oh, okay.
But
cool.
Still, you'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll take that. He had one deep ball, but I think you could get more. They didn't need to throw deep a ton in that game. They had a pretty firm grasp on that one all day long. But look, Ertz hasn't been exciting. I still think he's totally viable here. The Vikings are allowing 7.9 yards per attempt to opposing passers this season. Worst in the league. 7.9 yards per attempt. We've seen so many weird things where they just play off the receiver and they're just wide open windows in a lot of these games. So that's, not great. Wait, hold on. Wait. It's not, sorry. I want to make sure I'm right about this. Yes, 7.9 yards per attempt. They got 5 picks. They got some hawks on defense. They have only allowed 6 touchdown passes. Granted, they had a bye, but I expect Murray to be able to move the ball a little bit. I think Hopkins is going to have a big day. Where do you approach, or how do you proceed with the rest of Arizona not named Hopkins? And what are you doing with Kyler? Because he's not cheap.
He's definitely not. Definitely in the you can play him range with the way that this game environment, the shootout potential is there. The other players are actually pretty tough, especially with the fact that it sounds like the running back core is getting healthier and healthier. That muddies the waters for sure. They're not going to be popular. And if you think there is shootout potential and some of them fall into the end zone once or twice, then maybe one of them end up being valuable at $6K or $6,100 for James Conner. I'm probably not really going there. The other receivers, though, I think Rondale Moore at $5,100 and just 3.5% expected ownership. That's fascinating because especially if DeAndre Hopkins fails, there's a good chance Rondale Moore is the target leader. Zach Ertz actually is the one that kind of scares me because you got to pay up for that security. But with the running backs getting healthier, usually that might mean more dump off passes go to the running back position. Ertz could always find the end zone. You just need about 15 points to feel really good about him in a GPP. But ultimately, I think tight end 3 for a player like Ertz, who has 13, 14 point ceiling. It's a little steep.
It is. We're going to have to find ways to do it. I said yesterday, I will take some shots on Robbie Anderson.
Absolutely. Look, guy who can run a deep route for Kyler Murray. Kyler can chuck it. They haven't used the deep ball that much. Maybe they haven't had time to, but under 3% owned Robbie Anderson when no one wants to play him.
4K.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, with Rondale Moore, if he breaks something after the catch, that'd be nice. But with Robbie Anderson, given how cheap he is, if I'm stacking this game and it really does shoot out, wouldn't be at all shocked to see him have, I don't know, 3 for 100 and a touchdown, 3 for 80 and a score or something. It's not crazy. That's what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Justin Dulpengeiser. I love that last name. Am I pronouncing that right? Not. How do you know, Tyler?
Took German.
You did?
Yeah.
So say it.
Dupengeiser.
Yeah, that's okay. You gotta say it with an accent, in my opinion. But
I mean, yeah.
Dulpengeiser. But he said, and Justin makes good points in this chat quite often. This is one I'm 100% on board with, man. He said, Thielen, interesting play, 6% ownership right now. Yeah, if Thielen's ownership really comes in around 6%, he's got almost a 20% target share. His targets since week 2, 7, 8, 9, 7, and 8. You best believe we should be on board with that. Listen, he's not a Justin Jefferson. I understand that, but he is someone that's going to get targeted in the end zone. We know that over the years. He's 6,200, and Arizona, outside of last week with Chris Olave going over the century mark, Arizona, and listen, Justin Jefferson is a stud, freak of nature. I get that, but Arizona has done a good job of limiting wide receiver ones. You might see even more volume go to Thielen this week. I do at 6%. I absolutely love Adam Thielen.
Look, the Cardinals' pass defense is simply not good. 19th in yards allowed per pass attempt, 27th in Football Outsiders pass DVOA, and they are a pass funnel, meaning their run defense is actually pretty good. So they're 6th in Football Outsiders rush DVOA. Ultimately, I think this game just has so many ways that scoring happens that I'm not really going to say anybody is off the table. Certainly not a player who's open in the end zone as often as Adam Thielen. It gets dicey after Thielen, Jefferson, and Cook for obvious reasons. Irv Smith is the one that continuously seems popular, and I just don't get it. He's like a 60% snap share player, splitting time with Johnny Munt. We've seen one game with over 5 targets, expected fantasy points just at 7. I guess his projection puts him in the you can play him range, but what does that really mean for tight end 11? And how often does he have a slate breaking score? Why do I have to play him when he's going to be kind of popular, 9% projected ownership?
I don't disagree. And he's not that cheap either. Like, he should be 3K. So he has 3 goal line targets. That's nice. Jefferson and Thielen have 11 and 9 red zone targets respectively, 7 and 6 inside the 10, 2 and 3. Thielen has an additional goal line opportunity. So we don't need to speak much to Jefferson. He's a fantastic player. I think it's interesting once you get to Thielen, and I don't know how much I want to go to the ground game here. Just with the builds that I've been getting, it's hard to get some of these more expensive running backs for me.
Dalvin Cook is not looking good in our projections, but at the same time, he scores 3 times, throws the ball into the end zone once or twice. I'm not surprised if in this game environment, he comes out as a very, very valuable piece. It doesn't mean you can't play him when we have him 5 spots in our projections below his salary-based expectations. We saw Madison being talked about in the chat. Madison gets valuable opportunities every once in a while, but ultimately he really is a spell back. He is there to just back up Dalvin Cook. We just know he would get all the workload should Cook get one of his quintessential stingers or anything like that. And so because he has like 5 expected fantasy points of value and has that little bit of upside, he is a milli maker player for me in this high total game.
All right, now it's time to start getting through some of these games a little bit quicker. Talk New York Giants, Seattle Seahawks. Before we do though, my friends, BetMGM brought back the NBA promo. Ooh, baby. I mean, that's where it is, right? $10 into $200. All you do is bet an NBA game that you were probably going to watch anyway. Even if you don't watch it, doesn't matter. You don't even have to like basketball. All you're doing is using the link in the description or the one that Tyler's about to throw in the chat right now. Click the link, sign up for the first time, deposit $10, put that $10 on any pregame money line. I prefer to bet a small dog here because if you win that bet, they still pay you out on your bet and you get the 200. Or if you lose, you get the 200 anyway. And then after that, collect your money. 5 quick steps, take you a couple minutes, sit back, collect it, get yourself on a new book, right? Even if you're not betting yet, is there a better way to get your foot in the door? Because guess what? DraftKings and FanDuel, they're not giving you any promos to sign up on your sports books. You're already on their DFS sites. So they know they got you. They don't care about you. BetMGM's like, yo, come check us out. We'll give you $200 when you bet an NBA game. That's all you got to do. Bet a pregame NBA money line. If any team scores a 3-pointer on the day, in not just in that game, it's a no-brainer anyway.
So
just
the
on the
NBA
slate in general,
itself has a pulse.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting the $200. I mean, set yourself up. Set yourself up nice, especially knowing that you probably exhausted promos at all these other books. this is the one to do. And I say it every time. This is the way to look at it. Right? If you're on the fence and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do it. It's $10. $10 these days goes way quicker than it should. Okay. If you lose everything after you get to 200, you go on a horrible run, just bad beats left and right. You can't believe what you're witnessing. At the end of the day, you're still only down $10. What if you go on a massive heater and you just start ripping off wins left and right? And now you're like, oh shit, I got a 4-figure bankroll now that started with $10. It's as easy as it gets. Take advantage of it. I don't know how long it's going to be here. Click the link, deposit $10, put that 10 on any NBA team money line pregame to win. And if anyone hits a 3-pointer, you got that 200. Can't do it in Pennsylvania, New York, or Mississippi though.
Because it's that good.
Because it's that good. Yeah. They used to have it in PA in New York, and they're like, man, we're getting beat up on this. I think that's what it was. They're like, too many people are doing this.
I mean, we truly don't know, but like it could be. It's that good of a deal.
I think New York is some tax law, but yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe, yeah.
All right. New York and Seattle. I want to throw this over to you and get your opinion on it because I think we might be different. Because for me, I think this may be ground operations on both sides. Two poorest defenses. New York Giants are allowing almost like 6 yards per attempt. I think it's a Kenneth Walker and Saquon Barkley day, and I'm not convinced otherwise. And I don't know if DK Metcalf's going to play.
It's Kenneth Walker and Saquon Barkley doing the Spider-Man meme and pointing right.
Pretty much, yeah.
Look at your thighs. Look at your quads. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Okay. The two of the strongest. First of all, when healthy, two of my favorite running backs to watch right now in the NFL. You heard me. These Kenneth Walker breakaway runs are awesome. And they're reminding me of rookie Saquon Barkley. I kind of agree here. We have some upside potential with Geno Smith and the passing game in Seattle. But if they can run the ball, I think Pete Carroll will be just fine keeping it on the ground. And look, Kenneth Walker is not that expensive. On DraftKings, he's 6,500, running back 10. We have him way ahead of that and ahead of salary-based expectations in terms of projection. We actually feel the same way about Tyler Lockett. I know a lot of love has gone out for Marquise Goodwin. He's topped out at 5 targets this year, done that twice. If Metcalf can't go, which I think he's almost no shot to play in this game, he would be my secondary option, but I can't say I'm enthralled by him. Yeah, I can't say I'm really excited. It's Lockett, it's Walker, and in a pinch, 5,800, Geno Smith isn't that bad, especially when you consider he's only 6% expected ownership. But ultimately, I read this the same way. The defenses of both sides, if they can't stop the run, then neither team will stop running.
I agree. And I mean, what a big workload for Walker last week. I didn't think the game was going to go that way. I really didn't. But now he has 21 and 23 carries over his last 2 games. Hey, the work, the volume, it's all going to be there.
Yep.
He's going to be popular, but rightfully so. And to tell you the truth, I'm surprised that Kenneth Walker is not getting more ownership than we thought that he would. I mean, 14%. One of the reasons could be that we're projecting Zeke out, and I think that makes sense. He didn't practice again today. And there's some other great running backs on this slate. But if Walker's really only 14% owned, I, even at the price increase, think that is very much meat still left on the bone, Matt.
I would say so. And in terms of overperforming expectations, I mean, hats off to the Giants coaching staff, getting a lot done with very little in terms of talent.
Yep.
But the advanced metrics from the offensive side and the defensive side suggest that this is not a team that is as good as its record. Does that mean they don't come away with a win here? I can't predict that. But ultimately, it does mean that I think Seattle can poke holes here. And I'm actually looking at the opportunity metrics for Kenneth Walker, and there is meat on the bone in just pure volume, too. No targets last week, had 3 the week before. What if he gets a couple targets on those? What do you have? 44% of team routes run, 30% of the team's routes he ran, team's passing plays he ran routes on the week before. This guy's got potential, and he's got 2 top 8 overall weeks at the running back position already. He might be outdone by the guy on the other end of the field because Saquon's been that good this year.
He has. Yeah, you were very much on him from the beginning. Last thing I'll say, I don't hate Wando Robinson. Galladay and Tony are probably going to be out again. So 8 targets last game. He's going to be on the field for almost all of the passing plays. That's fine for me as well.
Darius Slayton's the only one I'll mention it as like a deep ball threat because they don't have Bellinger anymore. You mentioned the other injuries. Who else? I don't need to go to Marcus Johnson or Chris Myarick.
Myarick.
No.
Yeah. I don't think he's insane if you need to punt tight end because it's such a bad position and Bellinger's out with the fractured eye socket. But that's just a bottom of the barrel. Hey, I'm stacking Minnesota and Arizona with Jefferson and Hopkins and Murray, and I need to get some salary relief outside of defense.
Correct.
Like that's where I come in at it. Yeah. Hey, Philly hosting the Steelers. They're 10.5-point favorites, 43.5-point total here. The issue that I keep running into is as good as AJ Brown is, and as good as Sanders can be running behind this line, there's so many other really, really good spots for guys that are priced similarly to them. We'll get into Hurts, but what do you do with the skill players from Philly this week as double-digit home favorites?
We got to just use DFS fundamentals and say Sanders is probably a good play on paper at 6,600. We have a projection essentially right there at that salary-based expectation. And in a tournament situation, at the 20-point mark, you've felt really good about choosing him there. And he's only 6% owned on a team that has, I think they're minus 550 in the books to win this game. So as long as the volume is there and he's not vultured by one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL, Jalen Hurts, I actually think that Miles Sanders is a sneaky great play. You mentioned it. AJ Brown is viable, but tough because you got to make considerations. At 7,700, we actually have him quite below salary-based expectations. It's kind of same with Devonta Smith. Our projections right now at Stokastic have us going towards the rushing attack. So absolutely fine with Hurts at 8,300, not too much for QB1. And as I said, Sanders honestly looking very good. I'm not going to tell you you can't play an AJ Brown or a Devonta Smith. I'm looking at it now. Dallas Goedert is actually the one popping the most in our tools in terms of value. I'm not sure that's a must play. I'm fine with
Goedert.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
He's not exciting, but I'm fine with him. He's a monster after the catch. They're just getting him the ball a couple yards deep from the line of scrimmage and then just sending everyone out to block for him. Like he has a convoy of envoy or convoy?
Convoy.
Convoy, right? Yeah. Then what's an envoy other than the SUV?
Envoy. A person delegated to represent a government or someone accredited to a foreign government, like sort of like an ambassador type.
Okay. He had a convoy.
Mm-hmm. He also had an envoy in a way, but it was just
less,
right.
Yeah. He had a convoy of envoys. That works.
Use it in a sentence, Merriam-Webster, just like that.
There's only really a few quarterbacks that I really like this week. I mean, Tua because he's cheap and you have Waddle and Hill. Carr because I like the stack. I'll go to some Dalton. I hate the fact that Taysom Hill can vulture so much. Kyler, I like Cousins. Hurts, I don't love this game, but man, Hurts is always capable of just straight breaking a slate.
Right. It's almost like, especially if you have access to something like Fantasy Cruncher, just lock in Jalen Hurts and see what variations you can do, what game stacks it gets you to as an excellent one-off piece, right? You don't even necessarily need a run back because choosing the right one is getting tougher and tougher in Pittsburgh, not to mention the fact that their chances of scoring 20 plus points, they're getting low. Pickett's not that good yet.
Have you ever looked at the name of cars and like thought about, do I know what that word means?
All the time. How did they come up with the models of cars?
Like what is, what caprice means?
No.
Like fluctuation in mood. Like they're all over the place, kind of.
Okay.
Maybe undiagnosed undiagnosed bipolar.
Gosh.
I think like expedition, right? Excursion,
Mm-hmm.
but I guarantee there's some we'll look at and be like, what is that actually? I've looked them up before because I'm like, I know that's a word and I know it's the name of a car.
Like,
but I don't know what that word means.
Like a sonata.
What's it? What is that?
Sonata is a piece of music, a composition. It's usually for solo and orchestra.
I wouldn't have known that. Yeah. Very interesting. Next time you guys are out and about, check out some car names and be like, I need to Google that and then get back to me. Anything else from Phil? Let's, I guess, talk about Pittsburgh.
We got to talk about Pittsburgh, right? Like
I can't play Najee. I know he's getting cheaper, but I'm not there. Would rather play Chuba. I'd rather play Dante Foreman if Chuba Hubbard's out. I'd rather play Tyler Algier this week as 4.5-point favorites and save some money, or just pay up a little bit more. They have nothing going in the run game right now. For me, it's pretty much Pickens or bust, maybe a little Freiermuth, but I don't love this.
I will say this. Philadelphia's defense and schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed, still a top 3 defense in the NFL. Against the running back specifically, they're just at league average. In fact, they're actually right below league average right now, which is weird to say for a Philly defense. They're typically fantastic there. And obviously in some other, they're not trying to optimize for fantasy points. They're optimizing for other things. But along with the median projection for Najee Harris, I would be remiss to say that he can be played. This passing game is really tough because I think Johnson, Pickens, and Claypool, and honestly Freiermuth, are all capable of having scores that are surprisingly good at under 5% ownership. But because there are 4 of them, the number of lineups I need to play with Pittsburgh Steelers to get all the variations I want become really difficult unless I'm a mass multi-enterer. So I'm really choosing my spots with Pittsburgh. I don't mind having them as a one-off. All of them are in the you can play them range based on their salary. None of them are really jumping off the page.
Mitchell Mayhouse said, I expect the Eagles to do what the Bills did to the Steelers. Hurts 300+ combined yards, 3 TDs. Listen, Mitchell, I have no problem stacking the birds without a run back in this game. You
don't need to.
I don't think it's weird at all. And we've now seen it work to win stacks in, I think, 2 of the last 3 weeks. Buffalo against Pittsburgh. Who was it last week? Wasn't there
Did you say an Eagle was in there 2 of the last 3 weeks?
What's that?
What did you say was in there 2 of the last 3 weeks? I'm sorry.
I think a stack that didn't have a run back.
It makes sense to me.
Cincinnati. Cincinnati. It was Burrow, Hurst, and Chase. No run back. Because if you ran it back with Atlanta, that lineup had no shot of winning shit. I know because I did it. So yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy as double-digit favorites at all.
And also we should say that, one trend we've been seeing, obviously there's no one way to win the Millie Maker. If there was, we'd all do it. But ultimately, the larger the stack is for single entry or smaller field tournaments, because you can afford to get 1 or 2 things wrong in those situations. Whereas the Millie Maker, you got to get everything right.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, stacking a 10.5-point favorite at home and not running it back with an inferior offense, it's not the craziest thing. If I did, it'd probably be Pickens. But all right, San Francisco, LA Rams. Debo is not practicing, and I think there's a real shot that he doesn't play. Juan Jennings is not practicing. Not that that's a huge deal, but I'll say this much. I'm not huge right now if everyone's active on San Francisco. If Debo sits, I'll probably have a good amount of Brandon Ayuk this week.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this on how we would normally break down a slate. If Debo doesn't play, Brandon Ayuk is going to shoot up our projections board. He's going to be just fine at wide receiver 15 on DraftKings, 6,100. And we're certainly going to see much larger than his projected ownership right now of around 2%. So we could just toss that out the window if that's the case. And the fact that George Kittle is still there, Still a great player, not expected to be popular, and he's 5,700. Even though that's tight end one, we can still finagle a way to get there if we want to go there as a contrarian option. But can we just talk about how Christian McCaffrey looked like a golden god every time he touched the ball last Sunday? Just for a second, like just take all the stats out of it for a second. Christian McCaffrey looked unstoppable on his touches. And I know he's running back one. I know it's 8,700. I know it doesn't make sense. I know the math isn't going to point us there. But maybe you just get the ball to Christian McCaffrey over and over again and take the new car out for a spin.
Yeah, what would you name that car?
The McCafe.
No, you can't make him sound like he's a McDonald's item.
I don't know. You put me on the spot. Now I'm really thinking about it.
Man, I would just name it the CMC.
That's pretty good.
Or that would be the brand of the car for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. The CMC McCaffrey. There you go. Keep it simple.
Not bad.
It is. Ayuk has a 26% target share over the last 2 weeks. Kittle's at 22%. I don't mind Kittle. You want to know what my one concern is? That with Juszczyk looking like he's definitely out, Shanahan's already talked about using Kittle in some of those Juszczyk roles. How much more does he block in a game like this?
Damn, he's so good at blocking. It's annoying. Like for fantasy purposes, he is so good. Yeah, they probably do scheme him that way.
Shanahan even said they might.
Would.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean his goal line usage goes away suddenly. That means they just find new ways to utilize Kittle. It just limits the amount that the team chooses to pass and draw up plays for Kittle in the passing game. Certainly possible here. Hey, look, if this is an offense that has sneaky upside, and this game actually does have sneaky shootout potential, if the Rams of 2021 could actually, or even a semblance of them could actually show up, and the offense gets more consolidated, that's kind of appealing to me. And no one's going to tell you to not play Kupp. The only issue is how in the world do you fit him in?
Right. Yeah. What else do you want to do with the Rams in this game in general?
Maybe nothing. I mean, the answer to this might be nothing. San Francisco's defense is getting healthier in the front line, faster than the secondary. But outside of Kupp, you're really throwing darts, man. I mean, Higbee is fine at 4,200. He's certainly going to look good in our projections, but he's going to be popular too. 10% of the field is going to play him. Do we see Van Jefferson this week? He's actually in the projections for the first time. Allen Robinson is at a complete disappointment, and he's not at a complete discount. He's still 5,200, wide receiver 24. If you told me that these were the GPP options you absolutely needed, I actually would be surprised. With the way San Francisco's defense understands their opponents, there's some ceiling potential, and there's obviously volume for Kupp and Higbee, but outside of them, miss me with Darrell Henderson. I don't need that, and we have him outside the running back 20 conversation.
Our top stack tool always seems to have some affection for the Rams just because it's a concentrated target share. But at this point, it's like, Kupp and Kupp and how did I just completely Higbee.
Yeah.
Wow. My brain, I just short circuited.
You're in two sport mode. Like the NBA has all these end of the bench players that you gotta bring in October. We can forgive you for getting Higbee for 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's a violation. I can't. That's not good. But either way, let's move on. Talk about Cincinnati and Dallas. Before we do though, guess who sponsors this show? You know it. No House Advantage. Also, lots of advantage with the overlay as well. Tyler, what are we filled up at right now? The 10K to first today. Can you pull that up for me? Let me know how filled it is for today. Because I know the other Sunday, 48% filled for the full Sunday slate. 48% is where it finished at, Matt.
Wow. Less than 50, really?
Less than 50. Yeah.
There's currently 154 entries of the 1,600 for the Thursday night.
It'll overlay. We've seen a lot of that lately. $50 first match deposit bonus when you sign up using the link that we have in the description. Tyler can throw that in the chat as well. all of the tools too. This is the big thing. All of our tools at Stokastic for No House Advantage that were built by Alex Baker, built by Osimo himself for this purpose, are free. I mean, you've got the No House Advantage projections. You have the optimal lineups. You have our player prop tool. You have oddshopper.com that we have, which is free. These props are static. They don't change. So you're building lineups without a salary cap, okay? Just as you would at any DraftKings fan that you're building lineups, but you're doing it with props, no juice, just over or under. And you're putting the ones you like the most at the top of your lineup because they get the most points, the ones you like the least at the bottom, and they get the fewest points. They even have a multi-lineup generator at No House Advantage that you can use. You can pick your favorite props. They'll build them in the lineups. You can MME for this stuff. It really is cool what they've done over there, and it's different. And I hate when DFS sites claim that they reinvented the wheel, and then you play there and you're like, this is just way worse than anything I've done. You haven't reinvented anything. You've brought us back. You know, we've regressed. That's not how anyone feels about No House Advantage right now, because it's different. It's unique. All the research that you're doing for DFS is applicable for this. And there's a ton of overlay. So use the link, get the $50 first match deposit bonus. And Matt, I say take advantage of the overlay and static props and all the free tools at your disposal.
Absolutely. And we have some of the best stuff out there for NHA, by the way. And some of our very own over at Stokastic are, dare I say, crushing it over there with the overlay, helping them out as well.
Jordan Frank, man. Yeah, Jordan Frank working behind the scenes. One of the co-founders of Stokastic, putting in work. Same with a lot of guys. All right. What's up next? Where are we at? Let's go to, Chicago, Dallas.
See, this is why we got to start going faster here. Like, we don't have that much. Zeke's out. That's interesting, but we know where we're going, right, Laffy?
Man, Tony Pollard getting a backfield to himself in this spot, to me, it's the ownership is warranted.
Absolutely. Let's go, man. Get this guy his touches. We've been talking about this for, I feel like, a year.
And wait, hold on. Matt, I'm sorry. Zeke's not officially out yet. He's saying that he might be able to go all week without practicing and play. Just keep that in mind. We're projecting him out. He hasn't practiced all week, but it's not official yet. Go ahead.
Good caveat. Even on a 59% snap share last week when Zeke was banged up, just the 12 carries and 2 targets. Pollard, of course, turns it into 109 yards. No touchdowns, just kind of 12.5 points, but he showed us that 20-point potential is absolutely there. Yet again, one of the best players in terms of yards per touch, one of the best players in terms of evaded tackles per touch, in terms of breakaway runs per touch. This guy's just good at football, and he's getting an opportunity. What else do you have to say? 6,100 is not too much for a running back one. And CeeDee Lamb is sneaky good as well, because maybe Jerry Jones comes in from on high and says, well, if Zeke is not playing, you better show off CeeDee Lamb. I don't actually think that is a terrible narrative to play. You need about 20 to 22 points to feel really good about Lamb here. We've got a projection ahead of salary-based expectation at 7K.
You have to love it. And it does go back to your Miles Sanders point that, hey, he's going to be virtually unowned. You know, there will be some players in this range. Sanders is just fresh on my mind, but there will be some players that are virtually unowned because of the Pollard ownership, because of, Ken Walker. It's going to be really interesting to see how this range shakes out when the day is all said and done.
And on the Dallas side of the ball, if you get a popular Pollard, which I absolutely expect at this point, that might actually take away from these secondary, tertiary options in Dallas who could absolutely still succeed. No one's going to want to play Gallup after he laid a goose egg last week. Noah Brown is certainly unreliable. And Dalton Schultz, even, I don't know if you can really expect any type of efficiency out of him this year. All of these players have chances for success against a Chicago defense that is not good. Just because they beat the Patriots does not make me feel great about this team. They are below average defensively.
Jason Canonis with the super chat said, fantasy, Tua at Detroit or Dak versus Chicago? Tua at Detroit.
Absolutely. The matchup's better. And hey, man, over at the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, we got you covered all week long. We got live streams. We got VODs for you. You can get into our community Discord as well. Good stuff over there, Jason, but Tua for me.
Yeah, no doubt. And you won't have to super chat for that type of information. They're giving it to you for free all the time, every day. Marco said losing Quinn can hurt that rushing defense as well. I love Pollard because Dallas can use the same strategy Patriots use with Stevenson. Yeah, I don't know how much Quinn affects the run defense or even the defense right now at this point, but it doesn't help them. And then Mitchell said, don't the Bears have a good D? Their secondary has played their secondary has played well. Jalen Johnson is good. They have a few young guys that can get, ball hawkish and pretty scrappy out there in the secondary. So they definitely have been better, but their run defense still isn't good. They've allowed 10 rushing touchdowns already. They're allowing 4.7 yards per attempt. I think Football Outsiders has them ranked bottom 10. Yeah, 24th in the league. So this is still a plus matchup for Tony Pollard.
And one of the things that I've noticed too is that sometimes what we get is coaching staffs who are clever, understanding a team. Oh, I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen. Okay, we know that the Bears are a bad rushing defense, and so we're going to exploit that once or twice, and then in our own play calling, counter off them and beat them with the pass. So it doesn't mean that the Cowboys passing game cannot succeed. I was seeing those rush defensive metrics as the first indicator they aren't good. Some of their passing metrics are about league average. Still not convinced they are a good defense.
Right. Kevin said, please tell me how Bucks and Baltimore goes over 46 points. Well, Kevin, if it does, I will be losing money. I'll tell you that much. I have the under on this game. So also strategy show, Matt Kajeski and I did it already. We do it. We get up, we do it at 9 a.m. every Monday and Thursday. So if you want to check that out after this for tonight's game, tonight's hopefully impressive showdown between the Bucks and Ravens, we got you covered. Anything else for Dallas? Like, are you going to the passing? Anything else? We can make this quick before we move on to Carolina, Atlanta.
Because of what I said about Chicago's defense not impressing me, I will go to tertiary options when the primary options and the secondary option, which I count as Pollard, is going to be incredibly popular. Noah Brown, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, all in the you can play them range. The one that still kind of interests me is Gallup. They paid him all that money, still getting worked back from the injury, obviously as a zero. So the public, again, will not want to be on that. We're expecting less than 1.5% ownership.
Well, then you definitely like him more if Noah Brown is out because he's tending to a foot injury and didn't practice yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would open things up a little bit more for Gallup. All right. How about Carolina and Atlanta? I look at this game. I see Atlanta 4.5-point favorites. First time they've been favored all year. Last game was the first game they didn't cover. They were 6-0 against the spread up until that point. 41.5-point total. Now, Carolina's pass rush is good, right? Like Burns is legit. Their secondary, their run defense, it's not bad. Like that's not their biggest weakness. The weakness is PJ Walker and the offense. It should be lost on nobody that the Tampa Bay Bucks defense right now is breaking down towards the end of these games because they've gotten no help at all. They have allowed 173 rushing yards to the Panthers last week. 100. I don't anticipate 151 to Atlanta in week 5, 189 to Kansas City in week 4. The only team recently that couldn't get it going, no surprise, was Najee Harris and the Steelers. But seeing this game, I think Atlanta does. I know it's not. I know Atlanta doesn't want to throw the football. They threw 14 times last game in a spot they lost by 3 scores. Okay, and Carolina would like to run the football as well. So I do think, despite the low total, there are some opportunities here if you're stacking games and paying up for pass catchers and quarterbacks, where if Hubbard is out, I know that Wilkes said that he's going to go with a committee approach, but if Hubbard's out, I really don't think Blackshear is going to get a whole lot. I think it'll go to Dante Foreman, who's taken on lead back roles before. And Tyler Algier, he's not exciting. I'm not saying he is, but he's also $5,400, and he now has 31 carries over his last 2 games. It's just you're not going to get the pass catching upside. So I don't love the passing game. I would love to hear your thoughts on DJ Moore and Kyle Pitts and Drake London, but I am keying in a little bit on the rushing attack if I'm in building lineups that I'm going to need some salary relief at the position.
I absolutely see it that way. Dante Foreman, to me, especially with the expectation that Hubbard is either going to be very limited or not play this game. I think he's going to be the lead back here against a bottom 5 rushing defense in Atlanta. Real quick, we didn't really talk about the Chicago Bears in the last game. I'm on Khalil Herbert and Justin Fields, and David Montgomery does not have the ceiling potential for me at all. No worries. That team is not one in a main slate we need to worry a whole lot about. Getting back to the issue at hand, DJ Moore is the wide receiver in this matchup that I think could really pop off. I know he's going to be pretty popular. We're talking about 15 to 16% projected ownership. But this player, when CMC is not on the field, and oh man, when Robbie and CMC are not on the field, the splits look so good for DJ Moore. He could legitimately have 25% of the team's total opportunities the way this offense is looking right now. Those are numbers typically reserved for only running backs. What else are you going to do on this offense than give DJ Moore the ball? Donta Foreman will get plenty of work. Everybody else on this team is a hope and a prayer. If Terrace Marshall, Laviska Shenault, and Shi Smith beat you in a main slate, that's just because football's weird, not because you did anything wrong.
Interesting points here from Scary Creation. Said Atlanta can't stop the pass. Look, I agree with you, right? And they got a banged up secondary. My counter would be that Carolina can't pass. So it's one of the, like, what is the, what, and this is, you'll see where I'm going with this. What do they say? Like, immovable object meets, what is it? Unstoppable force.
Unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Yeah.
Right. This is basically like, immobile force meets a very movable object in the sense of, I don't know who wins out here. It could be PJ Walker and DJ Moore. It really could, it might be. It could also just be that they're so anemic that Atlanta's pass defense looks good. I don't have the answer to that, but I agree. I agree.
This is a good conversation because we talked about this on plenty of previous matchup show, but maybe we haven't talked about it in a few weeks, right? The ways we get to ceiling performances, obviously volume is king in fantasy football. If you're here, you probably know that already. But ceiling potential comes in 2 ways. The team gets to the end zone a bunch, and so they can score a lot of points via touchdowns, or the offense isn't necessarily explosive, but consolidated to just a few players. Right. Carolina, this is a clear example where that can happen going forward.
Yes, no question. My only pushback to that is that DJ Moore is one of the highest owned players on the slate. And that you absolutely are going to need the volume here. I think it'll be there. I'm not saying it won't, but you're absolutely going to need it because this team has an 18-point implied total. That's all.
No touchdown potential. We get it for sure. You're not playing Carolina Panthers because you're expecting 3 touchdown games.
Anything else you want to hit on for Atlanta?
You hit the running back position absolutely in the you can play them range, and they run and run and run with Marcus Mariota as well. That's going to raise the floor and ceiling projection for Mariota in our simulations. He could fall on his face here, but the Carolina defense does not scare me, and the rushing upside and potential of Mariota is sneaky good. So I actually do expect to have way more than the 5.5% expected ownership right now.
Let's talk about New England and New York Jets. Huge losses for the Jets. Huge. Breece Hall, like, I don't usually look at a running back and say, oh, what a massive loss, especially a rookie. But this guy's ability to break open a game was evident ever since he took over as the lead back several weeks ago. Think about it, Matt. And I know I mentioned this to Neil yesterday for these of you guys that are watching this and also watch that, but I know plenty of people watch or listen to this show that didn't watch that one. Look at some of these plays. 62-yard touchdown against Denver. He only had 4 carries. Against Green Bay, 34-yard touchdown that broke that game open. Against Miami, he didn't have that receiving touchdown, but he had a 79-yard reception that he was down to the one that Michael Carter punched in. Yeah. This guy absolutely has the ability to break things wide open. Not only do you lose him, you lose by far your best offensive lineman, right? Straight all-pro. And they move Elijah Vera Tucker everywhere. Look at the starting lineup offensive line formations, Matt, this year. He's been everywhere on the offensive line outside of center. what a massive loss on both fronts in that offense.
Credit to you for talking about these two players that they lost last week all offseason long for their potential to change the way that the Jets looked, because now we have it on film, man. We're not going to see it again until next year, but everything outside of that offensive line creating huge holes all of a sudden, and then an explosive rusher being able to get through it, this team is a below average offense. And the Vegas books are showing us that. The Patriots didn't look good on Monday, that's for sure. And suddenly they're still favored because the Jets, outside of the line and Hall, haven't been able to do much at all with Zach Wilson at the helm. I guess you can play Michael Carter. I don't think you have to play Michael Carter. That's really kind of how I'm feeling about this one. This whole team with the receiving core in flux, Wilson not throwing that often, injuries. Again, in a main slate, it's about cutting down teams and situations so that we can find the best spots. There's nothing really here pointing to me saying the Jets are in a great spot with the players they have.
You might be without Corey Davis too. What's going on with Elijah Moore? Like, he's going to play, but
how much does Robinson play?
Right.
So many questions, so many things you have to get right, and that you have to hit out of the park because you're trying to win $1 million, right?
Yeah.
In a theoretical thing. So
yeah, that's a good point. It's not just Michael Carter and then who was the backup behind him last year?
Ty Johnson.
But the Coleman. Other, there was another one.
Oh my gosh, who?
Someone will remember it. Chat's usually pretty good with this. You'll know. You'll. All right. So they'll mention. They'll figure it out for me. Somebody will. But I'm with you. I think this is a bounce back game for New England. I know they looked terrible last week, but
LaMichael Pirine.
Thank you. Yes. LaMichael Pirine. Yep.
Deep tracks.
Is that Samaje's brother?
I don't think so. Let's find out. This is the hard hitting. No,
it's his cousin.
It's his cousin. Yeah.
You know, where did you go for that?
I typed in a Michael Pirine brother to my search bar.
So, okay. ProFootballReference.com. Great. All those pro whatever reference sites are great. I always have the tab up. If you just type their name in, not only do they give you the pronunciation on these names, they will also give you their relatives in the league.
That's unbelievable. And you know what's funny? I had Pro Football Reference up and I searched in the search bar when going away from PFRev.
That's why I asked. I'm telling you, man, it's a killer site. It's a killer site. Hey, New England last week, it was bad. 3 interceptions, 2 from Zappe, 1 from Mac Jones. He didn't look right. He's going to start. That was a weird game. Fields fumbled 4 times and they managed to recover all of them. He got picked off. Could have gone either way. Credit though to that Chicago defense. That one-handed interception, I forget who it was from, just gorgeous, truly gorgeous. Steven says Pat's defense, which looked awful against the Bears, are missing players too. I hear you. I do. I get it. But I do see why the Patriots are, less than a field goal favorite here. I just don't really want to target other than Stevenson because Harris didn't get a lot of work. I think Rhamondre Stevenson is your only viable only viable option. And God, look at all those other running backs that are priced around him.
That's the tough part. Picking in this mid-range is going to be tough at the running back position. Hey man, if you're going to get close to 20 opportunities or actually hit that 20 opportunity mark and you're going to see Alvin Kamara level targets, I'm interested, even if your team's not projected to score a whole lot of points. Rhamondre Stevenson in evaded tackles per touch has been one of the most elusive backs in the NFL this season. Damian Harris clearly worked back slowly from injury. Nothing's really going right in the New England offense right now, but I would say Rhamondre Stevenson is #good.
Is this true? Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs?
Yes. Whoa, 3rd rounder.
Damn. Conditional 3rd rounder.
And a 6th rounder.
All right. Well, guess what, Chiefs? Guess what? I mean, now what the hell do we do with with the Chiefs pass catchers every week?
Goodness gracious. Hey, at least he'll play, man. He looked electric last year when he was on the field, and clearly this is one of those situations that I knew wasn't going to go because a whole new coach staff and front office comes in, and after the last one was like, hey, man, we kind of want to trade Kadarius Toney, or there was rumblings. This new crew comes in and was like, hey, we're looking to trade Kadarius Toney as fast as we can. Like, this whole new group was just feeling the same way. He might have other extracurriculars or something going on. No need to be speculative. With Patrick Mahomes, all things are possible.
Andy Reid loves those type of guys.
Yeah, it's second chance guys for sure.
Yeah, fifth chance guys.
Fifth chance guys, yeah.
But no, man, in an Andy Reid offense, that could get interesting. It's just going to be miserable trying to figure out from week to week what's going on. Do you think, I know we're short on, actually, we're not doing too bad for an 11-game slate. Yeah. And we had a nice long intro. Appreciate all of you guys. Oh, and we're over 100 thumbs up. Hey, thank you. I burnt, look at my finger. Can you see this?
Oh, wow. You're just giving everyone the finger?
No. You see that though? Look at all.
No, what happened? It's all bent and bruised.
I was cooking something and the grease shot up all over my hand. Or the oil.
That hurts.
Hurt like a bitch, man. Yeah, it was not fun. It doesn't look as bad on camera. I was oozing some goo out of it earlier today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a rewarding feeling, right? Where you finally get it to
look at the blood cells doing their work.
Yeah, man. It looked like just some clear fluid. I don't know. We're good. But Chronic Smith said back of finger burns make me want to punch God in the face. Yeah, it hurts like hell, man. Yeah. Do you think the Giants, it's a deadline. Are they going to get a receiver?
They just traded away a receiver.
Right.
They're
but
sellers.
For sure. But they're not sellers at 6-1.
I don't think
they get someone that they want.
They definitely have the mentality. That coaching staff, they haven't been around a while. It really seems like we're fine with what we got kind of crew.
Oh, man. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Dable's winning with a bunch of bums and Saquon right now.
No, I know, but for how long? I'm going to say that they're going to win the Super Bowl and be like, they can't keep doing this.
They're going to get a receiver. They can't hold the Lombardi this long.
Right.
They wish.
Okay. Ben and I had a great time with this the other day. I had him guessing the odds on all of the teams in their division, all of the division winner odds right now, right? He was no joke, like 10, 20 cents off on all of them, which is really impressive, except the Vikings, where he could not believe that they were minus 600 to win their division.
Boy, right? Everyone else is so bad. The Packers can't play.
The Packers stink. And you know that they already baked in this Bills game to that division line. So what I want to ask you though, and I want to ask chat right now, without looking, chat, what do you think the Giants' odds are to make the playoffs? Without looking, Matt.
Their odds to make the playoffs are at 6-1 plus 120.
To make the playoffs. You think? Okay. Let me see what chat has to say here. Any interest? Any interest? Any takers? All right, I'll tell you. Minus 300.
Okay, that's better. That's where it should be.
Not plus 120?
A 6 and I was trying to guess where you were going with it, but a 6.
Oh, you thought I was going to be way off. Gotcha. Yeah, I can throw some trickery in there.
You've done it once or twice before, but a 6-1 team, just take everything out of it. We'll use base rates. A lot of things usually go right. It is complicated because of the rest of their division being so good this year.
Tennessee and Houston. Let's do it. Oh, did I not mention the 3 free days for? Is that NBA, Tyler? Is it NBA or NFL? Because I saw a link you posted earlier. It looked like it was NBA. Or is it all of it?
It appears to be all of it now.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the link, it just says get 3 days of premium free. So I'm guessing it's everything.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's awesome.
All right. So that means, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Hi, guys. Well, 3 free days then, I assume, if we have the link that Tyler threw in there. 3 free days of everything on the site. Just click the link. If you don't like it, you can bounce. All of our tools. All right. I'll take your word for it. Take your word for it. Sounds pretty good. 3 free days, everything on the site. No strings attached, completely free. Use the link. Tyler just threw it in there. It's in the description as well if you guys are watching after the fact. Tennessee, Houston. Derrick Henry's going to touch the ball 30 times.
Yep, that's the analysis, really, right? Does Derrick Henry pay off at 8,400? There are other really high salary players that have worse situations, in my opinion. 1/5 of the field is going to Henry, which is annoying, but here's the thing I'm really liking about Derrick Henry this year. His routes run are still low, but his targets are better than non-existent. And what I'm really seeing is that he consistently gets the first look or just a plain target on the limited amounts of routes run. If that's going to be the case, then the upside is there. He needs 25 points to hit 3x value at 8,400. That's a tall order, but it's certainly possible against a Houston defense that is 28th in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs this year. In the passing game, do you feel good about Robert Woods? No,
I'm not touching. I'll just stop you there. I'm not touching the passing game. I don't think Tannehill plays.
If he doesn't play, then I'm not even sure about Derrick Henry because Malik Willis is going to take away a whole lot of rushing from Derrick
Possible. Henry. Yeah. I don't know if he will, though, because how much are you going to throw? Like Kyle Phillips is out. And he's not even a big piece, but he's on the IR. I know it sounds crazy that I'd even mention that, but who else do they have? Robert Woods, like you said?
That's it. Yeah, I said Woods. I mean, we got him ahead of salary-based expectations in our projections. Fine.
I'm not going there.
That's the only one where I'm like, hey, I get why you went there. Maybe Austin Hooper at 2,800 as a what the heck tight end that you just kind of stacked with this game. But Davis Mills has not shown the same ability to keep pace as a passer. He was kind of just chucking the ball as much as possible last year. That's not really the case this year. The matchup is ho-hum. The Titans are 22nd against quarterbacks in adjusted fantasy points allowed. Dameon Pierce is the only one who I say, he's got talent. He's going to get the volume. And I'm sad to say I can't say that about Brandon Cooks. It just hasn't been the same in terms of opportunity for him this year compared to last.
It's absolutely the truth.
Nico Collins is a sneaky one that I wonder if they actually get involved, assuming health, because Cooks might be gone in a week.
Yeah. Maybe. You said who? Collins?
Yeah, because Collins.
I don't think he plays.
Yeah, he got hurt.
I'm assuming. No, he's out.
Okay, he's out.
Well, Lovie Smith said that the injury to his groin isn't season ending. So if you're saying that, like you're missing a game.
100%. Yep. Okay, cool. We can knock him out.
So maybe you go to Chris Moore.
No. If Chris Moore beats me on a main slate, good night. Good night.
Exactly. I do think even if Malik Willis is in there, this team against one of the most inferior rush defenses in the league in Houston, you might just see still a crazy amount of rushing attempts for Derrick Henry. But I don't know. Does Houston just sell out entirely to stop the run? And if they do, does it make a difference?
Right. Just like see if you can make a single pass, Malik Willis. Try us.
Seriously.
We're stacking 9 in the box.
Do you like Brandon Cooks here?
I can't say I do. You can play him. 5,900 is not too much, but we're just not seeing the opportunities for Brandon Cooks that can say, hey, we can get an 18 to 20 point week, because that's really what we need to have him be a value still at this salary. Let's see what in his game log. He's had one 18-point week. He's had 1 week where he hit pay dirt based on these salary-based expectations. So 1 in 6 chance he's viable. It's not awesome. If you're only playing 1 to 5 lineups, it's not somewhere you have to go.
Well, let's wrap it up with Washington and Indy. If you've made it this far, pat yourself on the back. It's an impressive feat. The Marathon Matchup Show is not for the faint of heart, but we get you there every week. All the information you need. Washington at Indy. Washington getting 3 points here. Sam Ehlinger on the other side. Matt Ryan now the third string quarterback. You're looking like you're going to get Shaq Leonard back for Indy. I think, ready for my hot take? I saved it all the way to the end. I think Indy wins in convincing fashion.
What? Everyone, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Is Sam Ehlinger like Patrick Mahomes the second?
No, he's a 6th-round draft pick, but
can't this be like Brett Rippon, but really, really bad? Like, can he throw like 5 picks?
Can't get worse than Matt Ryan.
No, it really can. They were number 1 in completions per game. I know that they were creating a lot of turnover potential plays, which if you're an analytics focused organization or a coach that gets annoyed on film, you're going to see that over and over again and just be like, get his butt out of there. But ultimately, they were actually kind of producing and creating fantasy viable options outside of Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if anybody can be good here.
I think there's one thing you might be missing. Having a statuesque quarterback behind this offensive line is a recipe for failure every single week. That's why Ryan was leading the league in all of those key categories like sacks, interceptions, and fumbles.
Okay, so you need at least a modicum of mobility, which at least Wentz had last year, to make this whole thing work. You got to extend the pocket a little bit further than the line can do on its own. And
that's just my take, but yeah.
I buy that narrative completely.
But
and he's also hurt a little bit. Like they said, he has a sprained shoulder. I think it was more of an excuse, but you know,
I was watching some of his preseason stuff. I actually watched some of him in the preseason because I was doing all the preseason content. He made some really nice plays. It's just, we have no idea whether or not he's going to be good. So that's why when I say that he can't be worse, I just mean if he can at least evade some of the pressure, they might be able to sustain drives where they couldn't last week. Plus, I don't think this Washington team, last week they got the win against Green Bay. Credit to them. Green Bay is horrible right now. Right. And so much of that, you could be like, yeah, Washington fixed their defense. All right, go back and watch how many plays were dropped on 4th and 1, on 3rd and 1, past the first down marker. Go look at how many mental mistakes there were by the Green Bay Packers. A lot of those were self-inflicted wounds. So look, regardless, it's the lowest total on the slate. It's the only sub 40 total on the slate. What are you doing with it, Matt, on either side?
I think the honest choice, if you're playing 1 to 5 lineups, could be I'm avoiding this entirely, but I think there might be some diamonds in the rough. Brian Robinson continues to see his role continually increase. 22 opportunities for Robinson in week 7. That very well could be a signal after 17 carries in week 6 as well. Antonio Gibson did have a few plays where he looked good, but I don't think I'll touch Gibson. If we think that the Washington defense has a chance to dominate, as I do, then you go and correlate that with a running back pick. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then in the wide receiver game, you still probably have Dotson, not close to returning. McLaurin and Samuel, those are the 2 names of the game. And honestly, McLaurin at $6K, that seems very appealing to me. Under 2% projected ownership. I get it's been a wild ride for Washington, and I get that Indy as a defense is actually pretty good, 7th best in the NFL in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing offenses, but the talent is there. The matchup, I think, is there, and there's just not that many weapons to choose from for Taylor Heineke.
Who is your favorite play on the entire slate at each position?
Oh, man. I'm going to do it regardless of salary right now.
Sure. Yeah. It could be anything. It could even be someone that you think makes a lineup work really well with the way that you're building.
All right. Give me a chance to think about this. I'm going to put Jalen Hurts as my number 1 quarterback. I know it's really unbelievable to do that for the number 1 salary.
No, don't worry about chalk or anything. Just
okay. Jalen Hurts, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
And, oh, man. Tight end is a dumpster fire. Just correlate it with Jalen Hurts and put Goddard in there.
Yeah, or just correlate it with whatever stack you're playing.
Yeah. Just bring it as part of the game script that you're buying in that lineup.
I'll go with different ones just to make it fun here. Although I agree with a bunch of those. I'm going to go Cousins, I think that price tag is very nice. I'll go running back. You could make a lot of arguments for many of them, but I'm going to go Alvin Kamara here. I love Kamara with Dalton starting. Wide receiver, yes, I would have gone Hopkins with you. Let's go Jalen Waddle because he's so much cheaper than Hill. But again, there's so many guys we like. And then at tight end, dude, you're right. It sucks.
Like Pitts is number one on our big board on Stokastic.com right
now. No. I'm interested in Juwan Johnson at 3,200 if you need somebody cheap. I think he ran the second most routes on the team last week, 41 routes. So not crazy. Kittle, Waller, all those guys are interesting. But hey, that'll do it for us, Matt. Good show. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun, man. The tangents were good, and some might say we expanded our vocabulary with that car model talk.
Yes, we can be a bit caprice on this show. Okay. But here we are. Thanks, you guys, for hanging out as always. Really appreciate it. This is a fun show to do every week. Wouldn't be anything without you, though. Follow Matt at Draftaholic on Twitter, me at Laffy_D. And shout out to Tyler Zander along for the long haul here every Thursday. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.
See ya.